I will speak specifically about my history at Nassau Community College and why I believe I am qualified to be your Vice President for Classroom Faculty during the next portion of this forum. I'd like here in my opening statement to speak more broadly. By profession, I am a writer and a teacher of writing. Words matter to me, and they matter in the job of union officer as well, not just in the care with which we have to treat contract language, but because the words that union officers speak have real consequences. The fact that our words have consequences sits at the heart of two uncomfortable realities inherent in being a union officer. One, the decisions you make as an elected leader will never please all of the people you were elected to lead. And two, you will inevitably fail some of those people. To pretend this is not true is to engage in leadership by wishful thinking. To recognize that it is true is to begin to approach the job of being a union leader with the humility it deserves. The day-to-day business of the Nccft Executive Committee, from minor, easily resolvable questions about contract language, all the way on up to contract negotiations and the grievances that get filed to protect our contract, requires a vigilance about these consequences, especially unintended ones, that it took me some time to learn. Maintaining that vigilance means committing yourself always to speaking honestly and with integrity. By which I mean, of course, speaking truthfully, but also saying no more than what you are willing to stand behind, even when the news you have to deliver is not good. As NCCFT Secretary, this has been my guiding principle in writing and managing both our blog and the many other communications the Executive Committee has sent out to the membership. If you choose to elect me as Vice President of Classroom Faculty, it will continue to be my guiding principle in fighting for you, to preserve and protect our contract and the quality of our professional lives enshrined within it. Thank you.
Okay, and now we'll have Suzanne.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you to the Election Committee for organizing this. I'm running to increase our membership, to improve our working conditions, to strengthen our contract, and to improve union communication with its membership. Unfortunately, over the past 4 contracts, we've lost 1/3 of our NCCFT membership. In the 2004 to 2005 academic year, we had 719 members, but now we have 496. This severely impacts our working conditions and with it our ability to retain students. We see pain across campus departments, from the Department of Personnel Services to theater to critical reading and academic advancement. We haven't been fired. We have laid ourselves off in early retirement incentives, devised through memorandums of agreement into which there's been little voice by the general membership. And those lines have not been replaced. This attrition impacts our departments, our Senate, and our union. Our working conditions need attention. Class sizes Class sizes are far above the faculty to student ratio of 21.1 of our contract. Emails become time consuming. Preparing Blackboard sites requires weeks of work, and yet our contract does not quite reflect these realities. The loss of release time for the chair of the college-wide curriculum committee, for coordinators, and possibly next spring for our academic senate officers, creates a crisis that severely damages our ability to participate in pedagogical decision-making and to sustain programs, projects, and initiatives. From learning communities to facilitate the recently developed guided pathways to supporting vulnerable students and honors program students. Full-time faculty have experienced 4 contracts with meager pay increases. We've had multiple years of 0 to 1% raises and half steps and lag pay. And although we do not currently contribute towards health insurance, one could argue that taking into account inflation, we are now in effect paying for health insurance through a decade of wage stagnation. Union communication with its membership needs improvement too. You can trust that I will listen to your concerns and work to find solutions. I will bring the same hard work that I brought to chairing NCC committees to this job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to our first question. So for both candidates, what are your qualifications to lead the NCCFT? Why don't we have, let's see, Suzanne go first?
Okay. Thank you. So one example of my ability to lead is my work as the chair of the English Department Curriculum Committee, where I initiated the effort and mobilized the department to update and digitalize all of our course outlines in preparation for degree works. Another example is my chairing of the Academic Senate Student Activities Committee when it was embroiled in discussions regarding disciplinary procedure for faculty advisors of student clubs. I worked to create a discussion where all voices would be heard and encouraged the committee to remember that we have an Academic Senate Professional Practices Committee and not to abrogate its duties. My experience teaching leads me to know what needs fixing in our contract. Our out-of-date contract does not reflect the reality that we spend hours in email correspondence with students or the time required for preparation and teaching of online courses. I think our current incumbents have not fully understood this. When they changed the contract to allow online classes to be equal in size to face-to-face classes, they showed their ignorance. Last year, when the administration introduced a new reading of our contract, indicating that 3-day schedules would rarely be granted to faculty teaching 50% of their courses online, and thus changing customary practice, our NCCFT officers did not push back. Also, class numbers are far above the faculty to student 2.1 to 1 ratio of our contract. In effect, we're teaching an extra class. We need a union that will examine this issue and enforce the contract. Some faculty in social sciences teach up to 150 students and are assigning written work, and that's unconscionable. We need a union that will address this issue. And I must mention the workload of chairs in Department P&B, which has grown as the numbers of adjunct and temp faculty needing to be hired and supervised has grown. And now supervision of dual enrollment programs with high schools will increase their workloads more. Prior to the 2017 to 2020 contract, the chairs were required to come to campus after June 15th, only in the case of emergencies. But now our contract language is vague and has the chairs available anytime after June 15th. Furthermore, executive fiat, such as the book fee policy or the loss of coordinators, have made August a chaotic hell for our chairs and for their entire faculty and our students. Thank you.
Okay, Richard, could you please respond?
So this is my 31st year as a member of the faculty at Nassau Community College and a member of the NCCFT. It's kind of sobering to think that. During the 30 years that I've been here, I have held leadership positions at the departmental and college-wide levels. I've coordinated ESL placement in my department, been a member of P&B. I chaired the International Education Committee of the Academic Senate. I chaired a Middle State Standard Committee in the two Middle State self-studies ago. And in all of this work, I formed good working relationships with all levels of administrators across campus. My union involvement began in the years when Donald A. Strab was president, when I was asked by the then executive committee to moderate the faculty activists list, which was a group of faculty who were meeting offline, off the NCC servers, to kind of strategize about how to respond. I became the communications coordinator of the NCCFT in 2011, when I wrote the blog, when I wrote press releases, and I wrote a lot of the communiques that went out in dealing with the kinds of the controversies that were going on then. I first ran for secretary in 2016, and I was reelected in 2017. I am not afraid to say the unpopular things that need to be said. I've called out Board of Trustee members, racism on all NCC. I called out Dr. Astrab when he was president, Dr. Saunders when he was acting president. And I have long and deep experience at the college and 10 years experience working with the union in various capacities, at least 4 of them as an officer. All of this, I think, gives me the qualifications to be the vice president of classroom faculty. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Since the world is rapidly changing and evolving, can you tell us about your recent union involvement and experience? Please speak to your specific accommodations or training. Richard, could you please go first?
So what I'd like to focus on, three things that I have done since I became a union officer. One of the first things I did was to start to work to turn the NCCFT blog into a true communications channel, a way in which the executive committee can get the word out to the membership about things that are important. But also, it is a way to speak. It's important to recognize that the blog is a way for us to speak to the administration without speaking directly to them. We have used the blog to signal to the administration things that we wanted them to understand, that we wanted them to pay attention to and respond to without having to confront them directly. The other part of what I have done, and this also goes to the question of communications as the union secretary, is the Know Your Contract initiative, which began last semester when we started to hand out the Know Your Contract broadsides, which went to the executive board and which they should have distributed to the departments. Since 2015, when that was when the major retirements began, when we lost 105 members. Since then, many members have retired, and we have lost an awful lot of institutional memory. We've lost an awful lot of experience. And I believe, therefore, that it is important to educate the current membership and new members about the history and strength of our contract, about how hard executive committees and unions over the years have fought to grow it, to preserve it, and to protect it. The Know Your Contract broadsides were a beginning for that. So were the asked and answered blog posts that we have started to put up on the blog. This kind of communication is important in creating union solidarity and so on. The last thing that I would like to talk about that I have been working on for the past 3 years has to do with LINC. LINC lecturers, many may not know, teach in the classroom, but they are not classified as classroom instructors. They have their own classification in the contract, and their presence basically creates a two-tier system of classroom instruction. And that, as a union, that is just not something that we should tolerate. And so I have been working with LINC for the past 3 years to develop arguments, to develop a plan, to organize them to prepare for making the argument to change their status. And we were able, in this contract, we were able to negotiate a committee that would in fact consider that question, which is, I think, an important accomplishment for LINC, and it is an important accomplishment for the union so that we do not have this two-tier system of classroom instruction.
Okay, thank you. Suzanne, could you respond to the question, please?
Yes, thank you. So I've been a member since 1999, a member of the AAUP for several years, and am currently the NCCFT alternate in English department. As a union member, I've seen a deterioration of communication on campus, and I'd like to specifically address communication with union officers. When you contact me with a concern, I will never say, find the section in the contract and then we'll meet. Union officers should be contract specialists to help the membership understand the contract. This past year, the union sent out surveys to investigate faculty needs. Surveys are woefully insufficient. Our short 2-year contract will soon end, and I, like the other members of the new NCCFT slate, if you choose to elect us all, plan to visit individual departments to get to know their needs during my first 100 days of office. In fact, over the summer, I began this process, having many conversations with faculty and chairs. I learned that theater and dance was worried about not having a full-time professor to teach acting or a full-time professor for dance. I learned that the chair in allied health did not know if full-time faculty would be hired in time for the fall semester. I learned that Africana Studies has not felt supported. Last week, I joined a rally with faculty and community members to urge the college and the NCCFT to support Africana Studies, to allow faculty to transfer into its department, and to support more new hires. I will be there to hear your needs and to support you. When Achilles had trouble, they did not feel listened or supported by our union officers. And when union officers sent out letters to coordinators stating that they could not use such titles, they did not strategize with coordinators, host a town hall, alert the general membership of what had happened to what departments or programs, or otherwise organize us to fight this dismantling of women's studies, multidisciplinary studies, developmental education in various departments, and so forth. Furthermore, the union needs to host open town hall discussions where people can ask questions, respond to each other, brainstorm, network. We need a union that gathers the faculty together more than 2 times a year, and also that meets with committees or focus groups on particular concerns. We have smart, talented, experienced faculty, and I will listen and learn from them. I will not sit politely silent while our college is dismantled. Our current contract is very short, and I would begin the work of listening and strategizing immediately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is just a message to everyone to remember the response time is 3 minutes. The next question. I would like the candidates to comment on the NCC Bookstore, the rollout of the NCC All Access program, also known as Books on the First Day of School, and the number of students who have yet to receive them, and the practice of the bookstore charging one price for the books and materials one day and more than doubling the price a day later. What can be done about the current bookstore situation? Suzanne, could you go first for this one, please?
Sure, thank you. First, this is not a pedagogical decision that this is a pedagogical decision, which is really the purview of the Senate, not the union. However, since you asked me, I think that we can all agree that the bookstore fee is, it's a chaotic mess. It's bad for the students. It's bad for college retention. It's makes more work for faculty, particularly when bookstore editions have different pagination or when the digital modality that Follett supplies conflicts with pedagogical classroom practices. The fact that the bookstore was not able to meet its stated commitment of having books ready on day 1 added stress for students and faculty. The opt-out policy is bad consumer practice. All of this and the fact that Follett had faced lawsuits leaves one wondering about the process of consultation, discussion, deliberation with faculty prior to this executive decision. What would have happened if this idea had instead been explored and developed in our former Academic Senate Campus Services Committee, a committee disbanded by President Dean after the disastrous move to arbitration, which was pushed by the Nccft and ended up giving us weaker Senate bylaws in 2017. Currently, Joe Mascarella oversees campus services, and my understanding is that his committee meets infrequently and does not keep minutes. When Mascarella and Espirito presented their textbook and class materials incentive to the Academic Senate on May 12th, it was a done deal. So what can be done? Well, Julio Espirito suggested at the Board of Trustees meeting on September 8th that we could have an opt-in, not an opt-out policy. Clearly, that's much very preferable. There needs to be clear communication with students and faculty. The bookstore should not be able to dictate the modality of the textbook. A matter that is very much the purview of the union that I'd love to see it pursue is the disaster that befell us this summer when our personal information was stolen or hacked. What is the college, what's the county doing to better protect?
Excuse me, Suzanne, your audio is breaking up. Could you repeat your last statements, please?
Yes.
30 seconds.
What is the college and county doing to protect its employees from identity theft? That's a question I would very much like the union to look into. It's a union matter. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Richard, could you respond to the question, please?
Sure, thank you. So there are 2 ways, I think, to answer this question about the bookstore policy. One is what is my personal opinion, and the other way to answer the question is what could the union, meaning the NCCFT Executive Committee, have done? In my personal opinion, I think it's always risky to align with corporate providers in this way, especially since for the administration to align with corporate providers in this way, especially since the bookstore had already shown itself to have difficulty adapting to Nassau Community College, and there are active lawsuits against this practice. Faculty input should have been solicited from the start, and I believe the entire program needs to be redesigned as an opt-in program at the very least. As to the question, what could or should the union have done, I think we should have done what we did do. We started questioning the underlying economics of the bookstore policy from the very beginning, and we kept asking those kinds of questions in every venue we could, including with Vice President Izquierdo, in meetings with President Williams and with Dr. Lausch. We communicated to the administration the specific faculty complaints that came our way, including those from our officers. Ours was not the only critical voice, obviously, but all of our voices taken together did result in the extension of the opt-out period. We played a role in that. And finally, I'm sorry, my printer was just activated, I'm sorry. I also think that once the problem with the program started to impact classes, that is when specifically it became an academic issue. The operation of the bookstore is an operational matter. And once it became an academic issue, the Senate, which has made its voice heard. At the last meeting of the Academic Senate, Chair Moore took the position that the Senate took the position that the college should end its contract with Follett. I don't know if that is possible because contracts can be complicated, but certainly it is the job of the NCCFT Executive Committee to support the actions that people are taking to try and change this bookstore policy. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Now moving on to question number 4. How do we restore the Academic Senate's participation in major policy decisions? Richard, could you start this one, please?
Sure, thank you. First, as other people have mentioned in other forums, I wonder at the word restore in this question, since at the recent Academic Senate meeting, Anissa Moore talked quite robustly about discussions that the Academic Senate Committee has been having with the administration about policy decisions. Lynn Bergen at the Secretary's Forum talked about the Senate involvement in the dual enrollment and guided pathways policies. So I don't think it is true that the Academic Senate does not have a voice in major policy decisions. Nonetheless, we do face significant challenges in the coming years, and we know that the administration is likely to try to place the burden of meeting those challenges on our backs, financially and otherwise. We faced this kind of situation in the past, and one of the ways in which we fought back was that there was very careful and thorough strategizing among the 3 branches of elected faculty leadership: the Academic Senate Executive Committee, the chairs, and the NCCFT Executive Committee, about which would take the lead under what circumstances and how the other 2 would offer support. That kind of cooperation seems to me to be necessary once again. And I have written at the direction of the current NCCFT Executive Committee to Anissa Moore, Chair of the Academic Senate, and to Noreen Lowy, who is the Chair of Chairs, to start this discussion about how we might cooperate like that again. I will be following up with them soon. It's the beginning of the semester, and so I am sure everybody is very busy, but we will be hopefully meeting about that very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Suzanne, could you respond to the question, please?
Thank you. Well, one thing that we need to do to restore the Academic Senate's participation in major policy decisions is to guarantee reassigned time to the Academic Senate officers, as well as the CWCC chair, as we have done for most of the Senate's existence. Faculty need time to carry out these exceedingly demanding positions, and this will help ensure the stability of the Academic Senate. There should not be sunset language in the contract about the duration of reassigned time for these Academic Senate executive positions. We should keep in mind that the Academic Senate has always been the highest and most effective advocate for the faculty's voice in areas guaranteed in Section 20 of our contract, as well as in Section 605.1 of the State Education Regulations. These include, quote, formulation of the policy relating to student health, scholarship, standards of admission, attendance and discharge of students, curriculum and other study programs, the granting of degrees, student activities, extracurricular activities, and student discipline. The faculty shall also represent recommendations to the president regarding the instructional budget and appointments, reappointments, tenure, special salary increments, promotions, and leaves of absence of members of the instructional staff. A second thing that we need to do is to keep the union and the Senate roles separate. The role of the union is to ensure that faculty have an academic voice through the academic senate. The role of the union is to make sure that the Senate can do its job. When the union officers participate in making policy regarding student health, scholarship, curriculum, etc., then the union has trod upon or interfered in the domain of the Senate. The academic senate, a place for collaborative development of pedagogical policy by faculty and administration, gets sidelined. The union should not participate in shadow committees, but let the Senate do its work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to question 5. How would you handle the temporary lines as well as keep all the probationary lines? Why don't we start this one with Suzanne?
Thank you. Just a moment. I think I put my comments in a different order. Okay, so in the current contract, temps don't have much protection. Although in the 5th semester of a temp line, our contract states that the faculty member passes automatically over into a probationary line, what generally happens is that the college terminates faculty before they get to that 5th semester. How do we handle this? First, we must stick to the guidelines and contracts for when temps must be notified if their line will be renewed or not. In section 50 of our contract, that is March 1 in the first academic year of service and December 15th in the second academic year of service. This is the least we can do for the faculty in question and department chairs. Second, we need to review our resource allocation. If we determine that we have resources for probationary lines, then we need to push for them, not temp lines. And that's why we need Dave Stern as treasurer. Dave has a record of finding $1 million savings. As senior scientist supervising the pathogen program for New York City, he saved the city $65 million. Section 67 of our contract states that the Nccft Budget Committee may make recommendations to the Vice President of Finance prior to submission of the yearly budget. The Nccft Treasurer can examine the college budget's allocation of resources. The loss of so many full-time faculty over the past 10 years has saved the college tens of millions of dollars. Where has that savings gone? We need to examine the finances of the college to fully understand the costs and revenue of the college. When we go to the contract, we'll have that knowledge, and knowledge is strength. Temp lines, as has been argued by the Association of American University Professors, are not good management strategy. They're bad for faculty, for students, for the college. A recent survey by the NCC Office of Institutional Research showed that student satisfaction at NCC has decreased in recent years, while full-time faculty have also decreased in that time. At the same time as we address the need for more probationary lines, we need to improve the numbers of African American and Latinx faculty among our members. Student Personnel Services currently has only one Black counselor. As we stated in our new NCCFT website, we would work with the college to take advantage of grants and initiatives such as SUNY's project that aims to increase the representation of historically underrepresented faculty, and to post job openings in a timely manner so that we can tap into a wider pool of diverse candidates. Thank you.
Okay, Richard, can you respond to the question, please?
Yes, thank you. I think it's important to point out that the executive committee of the NCCFT has been fighting not just this executive committee, but previous executive committees, has been fighting this battle for years. We have fought very, very hard to preserve probationary lines and for temp lines to be able, and for temp lines. You may remember that when Donald A. Strab was president, he tried to end the practice unilaterally of changing, of temp lines switching over to probationary status in their 5th semester. That executive committee took the college to PERB, filed a grievance, and won. And so it is now policy that that must be the case. This year, this executive committee fought very, very hard to preserve all of the probationary lines that we currently have. And while we were unable to save all of the temp lines, we were able to save 13 out of 16 temp lines for this coming academic year. Was that the ideal outcome? Was that the outcome we would have wished? No. But the reality is that when you negotiate, you're not negotiating in a vacuum. You do not make unilateral decisions. You have to negotiate with the person who is sitting across from you at the table, and you have to be able to make decisions that are for the benefit of the entire union and not only for a few. And so if you are faced with the question of how to if you are faced with the question of whether or not to save 13 lines and have a 2-year contract, as opposed to, for example, walk away from the table to try and save all 16 lines and possibly lose those 16 lines, that's a decision that you have to make. And it is a decision that you have to be willing to bear the consequences of. And I will refer back to what I said in my opening statement. Inevitably, you will not be able to please everybody in every way. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to our last question. And this time, Richard, you'll go first. For our last question, would you characterize the present role of rank and file faculty in the college's shared governance system? What, if anything, would you do to strengthen and reaffirm our role?
I didn't realize I muted myself. One of the things that we talk about as an executive committee, one of the things that we talk about at the various Nccft Community College Conference and other events that we go to is internal organizing. How do we organize internally as a union? And I think one of the things that is unique about Nassau Community College is that our governance system is a form of internal organization. Our rank and file are involved, very involved in shared governance. That's who the senators are. That's who's represented on college-wide and departmental committees. That's who the chairs are. That's who's on the curriculum committee. That's who's on P&T. That's who's on sabbatical. These are rank and file members who are choosing to become involved in shared governance. One of the ways that I think we do a pretty good job of that, quite frankly. I think we have a very strong and robust involvement in our shared governance system, but on the part of most of our rank and file. How might we strengthen and reaffirm the role? One way of strengthening the role of rank and file, I think, in the shared governance process is to look at the processes by which people become involved to see if there are structural elements that inhibit the participation of people who may feel that they have not been historically represented in governance, whether that has to do with race and ethnicity or gender or sexuality or any of the forms of diversity that exist. And if we find that there are, in fact, structural elements, well, then we need to work to change that. We need to create systems where potential leaders can be identified, mentored, and nurtured from all sectors of the faculty so that we gain the benefit of everyone's ideas and of everyone's input, because it is a fact that the more diverse participation you have in your organization, the more likely your organization is to be strong and successful. Thank you.
Okay, Suzanne, could you respond to the question, please?
Yes, thanks. First, everyone matters. All faculty have a role to play. The role is in our department committees and programs, our interdepartment projects and initiatives, department P&B, and in our academic senate, our committees as senators. We need to make sure we have an academic senate secretary, the period when we did not, was very chaotic, with faculty not learning what committee they were in. We need to end the second-tier status of link faculty in our union membership. They teach our students, they serve on Senate committees, yet currently that work cannot count towards promotion for them. Link is vital to Nassau County and to attracting international students. We need release time to coordinate department programs such as developmental education or quant way and math, interdepartmental projects such as women's studies, debate and communications. This work eats into evenings, weekends, summers, and release time makes it much more manageable. Coordinators function as point people, specialists. Their role streamlines bureaucracy. It is smart business management. Release time is cheap, considering what they do. Faculty deserve respect, and our college culture is not providing that. We encourage our students to have pride in owning their work. Doesn't the college want the same from us? Last August, when the union and college told coordinators that they could not use that title, it not only struck faculty as ridiculous, for who would know your authority to say X about a program if you are not known as the coordinator of X program, but it also felt so disrespectful. It was bad for morale. The college and union should formalize a solution in our next contract. Our membership is aging, and we need new full-time faculty lines to learn the ropes, gain experience, and be able to assume leadership positions at the department and at the academic senate levels as my age cohort retires. Increasingly, we rely on adjuncts and temps, which is detrimental to our ability to sustain programs and other resources that the community depends on. A primary purpose of a union is to get and retain jobs. The memorandum of agreement that the union officers entered into last spring, creating generous early retirement incentives, and which Union President Frank Fazenda took advantage of himself, was not in the long-term interest of the rank and file membership. It used weak language that did not ensure new faculty lines to replace any retirees. We cannot accept that. We cannot continue that practice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now you guys have closing statements to do, so Suzanne, you can go first.
Okay, thank you.
There'll be 2 minutes, just to make sure, 2-minute closing statements.
Okay. The contract that we just voted on is of short duration. Elect me and the other members of the new Nccft slate, and we will immediately begin talking to members, assessing college resources, coming up with solutions to see how these can be, how our resources can be put into effective use. We have plans and strategies. Look at our website to read them. I will work with individual departments. I will work cross-campus with committees. I will encourage open town hall meetings. Elect me and I will help our faculty regain their voice in academic and pedagogical matters. We will be respected, and in the process, we will retain our students, grow full-time faculty, our college, and serve the community. Of course, you can vote for whomever you want for each position. No one is forcing you to vote for the slate. You will vote for individuals. But I would urge you to elect Farron Sivanoff, who is a contract attorney and has experience as an Nccft officer. David Stern for treasurer, who has, as I said before, has saved New York City $65 million through his budget analyses. Judy Sue, who's running for VP of non-classroom faculty and has deep institutional knowledge from working with middle states and is a member of Alana. Valagakos, who's running for secretary and saved Achilles and demonstrated her community building skills. We are holding a meet and greet next week. Come get to know the other members of the new Nccft slate, bring your questions. I will be there for you every day throughout the year to hear your questions, to make your working environment better, to offer mutual support. Working hard together, we can get results. Thank you. Thanks to the election committee for hosting this, and thank you to everyone who came out tonight to hear us.
Okay, Richard, here's your 2-minute summation.
Thank you. First, thank you. Thank you all for coming. This is an important discussion, and there is actually quite a bit at stake in this election, and so it's important that you're all here. It's a fact that the last 10 years at Nassau Community College have been largely defined by upheaval, controversy, and change. We've been through a union-busting president, votes of no confidence, failed presidential searches, the Middle States debacle, very difficult contract negotiations, including the one we just completed, and of course now, though we are not yet through it, the COVID-19 pandemic with all of its attendant issues. I've been involved with the union through all of that in various and sundry capacities. As communications coordinator, I was part of, I played a central role in making sure that the word got out to the membership about issues of importance. As secretary of the union, I've played that role, and I have also played a role in making sure that members are protected when they need to be protected. When I first ran for secretary in 2016, I made a promise to stand with you in solidarity, committed to the important and necessary work we all do as higher education professionals, and protecting the rights and privileges guaranteed in our contract. I make that same promise to you now, and I am asking for your vote as classroom vice president so I can continue to serve in that capacity. Thank you all again for coming and for your attention. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, everybody, that was tonight's presentation. There is a vice presidential for non-classroom faculty forum going on tomorrow. In addition to that, if you have any questions or statements that you'd like to talk to any of our candidates, of course, you can go to the website where we have their pictures and bios listed. I forgot to mention that earlier, so I'm mentioning it now. And thanks for coming. This was really important. And in a time where we're encouraging our students to become informed and to vote, it's really cool that you guys are coming here to be informed and vote as well. So I'll see you at the next forum and have a nice evening. Good night.
Good night, everyone.